said Reagan was happy because he knew his philosophy meant greater freedom and liberty for the individual, so there wasn't a place to yell or be mad. There's a place to fight, but bring more people to the party. You know the question I always get at Leader, can I somehow bring this Republican Party from a Tea Party for moderates together? I don't want to have to answer that question anymore. I want to have to answer the question same way we talked about Reagan Democrats. What about New Democrats? Can we have enough room for all of them wanting to join our party? That's what we should be talking about. That this party is open, this party is inclusive, and I will tell you, just watching these snapshots beforehand of the number of our candidates, I would put that off anywhere across the country because that looks like America and that looks like a Republican Party planning for the 21st century in California. So I think the first bit of advice Reagan would give you is be a happy conservative. He'd also tell you don't be afraid to lead. He says you don't have to be an academic genius to lead. You have to make a decision. You know, I watched our president in a press conference once he got off the golf course talk about the challenges in America today. And they asked him about ISIL. They said, what's your strategy? I have no strategy. Ronald Reagan had the same battle in 1980. The Soviet Union was, I would argue, at a greater threat because there were two Germanys. They were in our hemisphere, they were in Africa, they were everywhere. And he said we'd defeat them. He got raised the same question. He didn't take long to answer. He just used 4 words. We win, they lose. So when our president today found out that probably is not the best answer, say you don't have a strategy, but don't worry, come March, you'll have the whole bracket filled out for the NCAA. He thought, I better come up with a strategy then. So a few days later, he came up with a strategy, but he starts it out with, but first, let me give you a few asterisks. We won't do this, 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 and this. I just want him to say, we will destroy you. We're not going to degrade you. We're going to come after you. Could you imagine Roosevelt standing up in the day of infamy and say, we're going to go to war, but we're not going to put somebody here or there or somewhere else? If we go to war, we go to win, and there's no other way to go. In our conference room. It is 8 feet by 16 feet, and it's Washington crossing Delaware. Now, you've all seen this picture before, have you not? I want to tell you about the artist. And I want to tell you why I put this in my conference room. The conference room is where we have all of our listening sessions. This is where we devise the budget. There's 13 people in that picture, but you only see 12. Washington crosses the Delaware. There's also James Monroe right behind him, so it's 2 presidents, right? So the artist paints this in 1850. So, good chance he wasn't there in 1776, right? That Christmas night when they crossed the Delaware and surprised the Hessians. But he painted it. He was a German, had lived in America, but he painted it in the sole idea of the revolution. In Europe, they wanted to intake that freedom and liberty that America stood for. So he wanted to recreate that night in his vision. So people complain about it because they said the Delaware looks like the Rhine. Okay, he's German, give him a break, right? But he wasn't there, they didn't have a camera, so he thought, I'm going to paint it in my eyes, having lived in America as an immigrant and taking the revolution to bestow it on somewhere else. So put the picture back up and leave it up because I want to walk you through it. Okay, first of all, we had never won a victory before this. But he's got George Washington standing there like that man's never lost. He's standing up in a rowboat as they cross a river. How many people do that? But that's what he saw George Washington as. And you watch that man going into battle, he's not afraid. He's never lost a fight, but he's never won one. This is when we surprised the Hessians. But he put 13 people in this picture. Why would he come up with the number 13? That's an unlucky number, right? 13 colonies. But he decided who's going to be in this boat. So he was going to put it in his own eyes. I want you to look at that second rower there with the beret on. He's Scottish. I want you to look at the guy across from the one with the beret. You see in the green? He's African American. I want you to come back down. See in the red towards the back? That's a woman. In the very back, in the last man, Native American. There's a pretty good chance they all weren't in the boat that night. But this artist believed America was a melting pot, even in 1850. He believed not only we were a melting pot, that we were all rowing in the same direction. Now, there's two farmers in the back before the Native American, and right before the Native American, you see that hand right across the one? That's the hand of the 13th you do not see. Now, why wouldn't he show a face of the 13th? Because he wanted everyone that looked at this picture to think of this question. And this question was true then as it is true today. It was for America, but this could be the boat for California. This could be our party. This could be our state. If this party learns to all row together, that we are a melting pot, that everybody's invited in, yeah, we may have not won every single race, but we're going to stand tall and we're going to know we can win. But the sign of the 13th was the idea, here's a group of people that have never won before, but stood like they have, and they risked their entire life for liberty and freedom for the next generation. Here's a hand, will you get in? If you want to know the question of the day of what we need from you, is that we join together. We climb in the boat together, we row together. I don't care where you come from in the party, we all row the same direction. And that we make that next generation the freedom and liberty just like they did, and we may have to risk ourselves to make it happen. I will tell you this. I heard him all the time when I was on the road in 2010 recruiting people. And I found a lot of people that had never run for office before and never been to Washington, D.C. on a vacation. And they were my top recruits. A lot of them have bills passed in law today. And they ran not for a party, but for a country. And I travel the entire country. And there's a lot of great states out there. But there is not one that has more promise, more resources, more natural beauty than the state we live in. We just have a screwed up governor and system that's running it right now. I think the climate is right. I think the opportunities are there. I walked on and got to pick the song I came here. So I'll leave you with this. Just as in 2010 they questioned whether we can do it, if we just don't stop believing, we'll make it happen. Thank you and God bless.